Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the setup guide for the beginner Eidolon hunting series for the Eidolon wiki. Um, in this, we're just gonna cover gear, amps, consumables, builds, whatever you need, basically. This is pretty much gonna be the same thing as we already have in written form in the wiki, but some people are apparently very lazy to read, so here we are. Because amps are the most important part for hunting, at least the most key to taking down the shields. We're gonna start with the amps. So the first amp you're gonna be able to build when you only have Onco unlocked. And the first amp I would recommend you building is the 123. This offers very solid damage with the combination of Raplag Prism and Traxon Scaffold. The Traxon being mostly used for water shields, while the Raplag will be used for the later limbs. And the Lower Embrace just buffs our base crit chance of the amp by a lot. We have the amp equipped with an Eternal Onslaught Arcane. This is from the Zariman faction, so if you don't have this, you can obviously also run a Virtuous Shadow Arcane to get less crit chance, but still better than nothing. However, I don't think Zariman is particularly hard to farm, so if you are able to farm it, or if you have the plat lying around to just buy this, I would highly recommend getting an Eternal Onslaught. This just makes hunting a lot more consistent and less frustrating because you don't have to deal with non-crits. At least on the Raplag. The Shraxen, still only reaches 32% base CC, which multiplied by 180%, or with if you add 180% on top of that, is about 89%. So it's close to 100%, but still not 100%. But the Raplag easily reaches 100%, getting to 140%. If you have Little Duck unlocked, then I would highly recommend getting this amp. This is a Raplag Proper Certus, or also known as 177. This is the meta amp right now, and probably will always be the meta amp. It's just the highest possible burst damage you can get with a combination of Raplag and Proper. And the Certus Brace just gives more crit chance than Lauren. It's just a better version of the Lauren Brace, basically. So as you can see, the Raplag here has a base crit chance of 58%, and the Proper doesn't show right now, but it has a crit chance of 50% base. So both of them easily hit over 100% crit chance, which makes it very, very nice to just have guaranteed crits with Eternal Onslaught. As you can see, same arcane, Eternal Onslaught. If you have the second arcane slot unlocked, I would run Eternal Eradicate here. This is just basically a flat 60% damage boost after using an operator ability, which gets procced by either Void Strike or Contamination Wave very easily. So yeah, that's pretty much that. While we're already here, let's talk about operator arcanes, because obviously we've talked about amp arcanes already, but not really about operator arcanes. I'm on my VS setup right now, so I'm running Magus Repair and Emergent Savior. This can be swapped around rather fluently. Some people like Elevate, some people like Vigor. However, I think if you can unlock it, if you have Little Duck unlocked or you have the plat to buy it, Magus Repair is by far the best arcane you can have here. It's just completely broken. Just infinite sustain without doing anything except sitting in void mode. And I personally really like Emergent Savior. However, this is a very flexible slot, as I said. Vigor is possible, Replenish is possible, Elevate is possible. You could run Husk, I guess, for more armor. Just anything that basically gives you more tankiness is fine. But yeah, I like Emergent Savior just because it's kind of automatic and I don't really have to do anything. This was basically all you need for any of the 3 VS roles. So now let's cover what the host would run in an ideal scenario. So if you didn't know this, you can change the operator appearance presets. So you have, see, I have A, B, C, and then the operator will have different arcanes equipped. So now, you see, I just swapped to appearance A, and now I have Elevate Repair instead of Repair Savior. This is what I prefer on DPS, because DPS spends a lot more time in his frame. And instead of a 177, if you want to truly min-max, you can run a 777 on DPS with Shadow and Strike. Or alternatively, you could swap out Shadow and equip, where is it? Virtuous Temple for more fire rate. However, I don't really like that. I think the fire rate of the Clamora Prism is easily fast enough. So I think Strike and Shadow are just preferable. And yeah, obviously this basically just replaces the Clamora Prism with the Raplac Prism with the Clamora Prism, which is a kind of a beam, and that beam makes it very easy to kill bombs if you so choose. So yeah, that's pretty much operator and amps done. Obviously for DPS, the operator arcanes are also flexible apart from the repair. So now let's look at focus next. So right now I'm on my DPS setup, so let's cover that first. DPS should run Uniru. For Uniru Wisp, obviously. This is the most important node for the DPS player. And also, together with Poise, those are the only two nodes in Uniru you will need. The rest you can just pretty much keep unleveled. Stone Skin is kind of nice because it makes you more tanky. But it's not a huge deal. But yeah, Poise and Uniru are very, very strong and should definitely be prioritized. If you're playing VS, you would obviously be running Madurai. And Madurai needs a bit more focus than Uniru does. So in Madurai, you will need Power Transfer maxed. You will need Void Strike maxed, with Void Strike obviously being the highest priority of them all. And then you will also need Contamination Wave maxed, at least at some point. Although this is the least priority or the lowest priority of these three. Definitely prioritize Power Transfer and Void Strike. And but yeah, in Madurai, pretty much everything is good. Like, just get everything except Distilled Contamination. That one doesn't really help us in hunts at all, but everything except Distilled Contamination is pretty good. Phoenix Talons is kind of meh, I guess. So yeah, that's the active nodes. Now let's look at Waybounds. Waybounds are basically school transcending passive nodes that are always active once you unbind them, no matter which school you have equipped. And the strongest and most important waybound for us to unlock by far is Void Flow, because this basically just doubles our operator energy, which in return also doubles our Void Strike damage. Then, once we have Void Flow in Zenuric, we go to Vazarin and we unlock Enduring Tides, just to basically make our operator playable, because if you don't have this, then the operator will just get one shot by Hydro Lightning if you're not careful. I know there was an operator update with where they got shields and got a bit more tanky in general, but without this, you will still feel very, very squishy. And the third waybound that you should unlock is Inner Gaze. This increases energy for amps and Void Beam by 40%. Void Beam is just basically if you don't have an amp equipped. Yeah, this just gives you more ammunition basically. Especially nice for water shields, where you might have to shoot multiple times for the shield to break, especially if you're still running 1, 2, 3, where you don't have 100% CC. So yeah, that's probably the third most important waybound. Afterwards, it's less important in which order you do it. However, the order I would recommend is going Void Siphon, Mind Step, Inner Gaze, no, I'm sorry, Eternal Gaze, Rejuvenating Tides, And last but not least, Far Sling. Uh, reason being that Void Sling has become pretty much useless compared to before. Like it's very rarely used, only in very high-end hunts with Novel. You is the only situation where you ever actually unironically use this. So yeah, this is not very important. Additionally, you might have noticed that we have not talked about the Uniru waybounds at all. This is because these are absolute dog shit. And if I could unspec them, I would, but sadly you can't unspec waybound. So once you took them, you're stuck with them. And because I unlocked these on the very first day the focus rework happened, before we even knew what they did, I am now stuck with them. But yeah, if you haven't made that mistake yet, then I would highly recommend just staying as far away as possible from these because they only cause you misery and grief. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we go over our gear wheel next. There's basically three very important things you need for hunting. Most importantly, it's your Arcwing launcher, ideally with an Itzel. This basically just gives you infinitely more mobility than you could gain with any other tool. So yeah, this is essential. Without this, I wouldn't even start hunting. Second most important is probably squad energy restores. These are just very nice to get quick energy on a button press without actually having to wait for dispensary to drop energy orbs or look for energy orbs on the ground or whatever you might be doing. And as you can see, I already have these hotkeys, so my Arcwing is on F1 for me. Obviously, you can put this to whatever you want. My energy restores on F2. And the third most important thing are ciphers. These are very, very nice to quick hack lures, which just saves you a ton of time. And because they have an internal hotkey, which is Y on an English keyboard, and the same button on any other keyboard, no matter what letter it is, so it's always the same button, to basically insta-hack a lure. Yeah, so yeah, this is just big time save. Highly recommend always having ciphers on your gear wheel. Some additional useful stuff is a K-Drive and a Necromech. K-Drive is very good to basically unbug yourself. If you ever get like stuck in a bug or something, 99% of the time just jumping on K-Drive will fix it. Don't ask me why. And a Necromech is just very nice for having an additional way to clear mobs with the Larkspur, for example, or Kuva, Yanga, or any kind of other AoE weapon. And I also have Ancient Healer Specters. These are just to prevent knockdowns, but honestly, neither of these three options are truly necessary and only more of a luxury thing. So yeah, that's pretty much the gear wheel. Last but not least are our builds. So I'll just go over the Trinity build as an example here. In general, we try to make these builds as Forma and Endo cheap as possible. However, just due to Eidolon hunting being kind of the only endgame content together with Profit Taker that this game has, you will still need a certain level of mods that you will have to slap on these warframes. But for example, if we're looking at the Trinity build, right? With Trinity, all we are planning to do is increase our strength above 150. The easiest way to do this is either with a transient fortitude, which I prefer, or alternatively you could run intensify and augur secrets for 154, but that's two mods and this is only one mod, so I think I prefer this. But then again, obviously you could argue you don't need the augur message then and still achieve the same duration, so it's kind of, it doesn't really matter which one you run, I guess. The preparation just gives you max energy when you load into the plants. This is actually a pure luxury mod. You don't need this at all, so you could just drop that off and the build would perform exactly the same. But if you have it and if you have the exos open, might as well. And once we have this strength achieved, the next thing we want to look at is achieving efficiency of at least 150, I would say. Ideally 175, which is the cap. I prefer getting this with rank 4 fleeting and rank 4 streamline. And obviously, once we have the efficiency done, all we're doing is just stacking duration to keep up the bless buff as long as possible. And at the same time, it also helps our dispensary just stay up longer. So narrow-minded, constitution, prime continuity, augur message. And as on every other VS roll, we always run arcane nullifiers so we don't get magnetic proc every time the Eidolon screams. So yeah, the other beginner builds are just basically built on the same principle. We're just looking what the frame wants, and then we're trying to achieve it with as little effort or as little endo informer as possible. Yeah, you can find all the builds in the wiki, so if you're interested in those, just check out the wiki, scroll down a bit. They're at the bottom of the beginner guide, part 1, and also at the bottom of every separate guide for each role. Okay, last but not least, let's look at Parazon. Actually, we also have Arcwing, so let's look at Arcwing after this. We have Livewire, Runtime, Untraceable. The only truly important mod here is Runtime, because this just gives you an insane mobility bonus after lure gathering, especially for DPS and Trinity, obviously. But Untraceable is also nice because you don't get shot out of Arcwing as much. And the same goes for Livewire pretty much. It's just like a safety measure. Stuns everything in range. So yeah. As I said, we still have to look at our Arcwing. So we always use Itzel, just because Itzel has the highest base mobility, and it also has very, very good abilities for hunting. Well, at least one, which is Cosmic Crush. The most important mods on the Itzel are obviously Hyperion Thrusters for more mobility, as well as Cold Snap. Cold Snap just freezes everything if you press 3, so that's very nice for gathering bombs. And in addition to that, I have energy, ability range, efficiency, and some tankiness on it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, just ask them in the comments. Join the Discord, ask there, read the wiki. And yeah, good luck in your hunts.